Okay, it's Second Impressions. I'm Erik. This is Greg. We have a question that we're going to be talking about today. Um, and it goes a little something like this. It says, whenever we do a marketing plan, we have all these goals. But then we spend 6 months dealing with emergencies and last minute stuff, and the goals never get our attention. How do we stay focused?
If only.
If only. Um, well, what do you think?
I have thoughts.
You have thoughts?
I have thoughts.
Let's hear some thoughts.
I think when I hear these, I have to take people at their word, right? We have goals. I wonder who we is and what those goals may be. Like, is this something that the leadership was bought into? Is this something that had been kind of preordained, planned, and sanctioned, and then reality hit? Like, there's all so many things that happen when we have a goal that make it easy to deviate from whatever that path is, that include sometimes the goal itself, like whether it was the right one, whether there was people helping to support it, and so on. So I think if we were to focus this conversation, maybe we'd be discussing how to best set goals, because otherwise these emergencies, they're not going to stop, right?
Well, or maybe it's about dealing with the emergencies. I mean, look, how many times do um, do you set a goal? I mean, even just at home. Um, I'm going to I'm going to do this project in the backyard. I need to do this. I need to do this project in the backyard now, or this month if I'm going to enjoy my yard in the spring, or whatever it is. So it's amazing because I've got dogs and they literally do nothing until like the camera goes on.
They detect the energy. They want to be
They
part of
yeah
the fun.
they want to they're like, tell me about my goals and my marketing. um but look, I mean, we blow those things all the time. Things that we have said are important to us, things that we say, we allow other things to distract us all the time and in all areas of our lives. It's not limited to this.
Right? I think the other part is that there's normally a fun part of goals. Like, the fun part is like having the meeting and kind of discussing the goals. And sometimes it's even putting the plan in place, the strategy, and like having that bigger idea that a lot of people enjoy that part. But then things begin to fall apart once you're breaking that into smaller bite-sized chunks, and those smaller bite-sized chunks don't necessarily align with the demands of your actual role in your job, and things that you face on the day-to-day basis, right? Like, there's this something lost in translation once push comes to shove, and you're actually in the execution mode of these things, where you have to say, okay, what is the most important thing in my day versus what is the most urgent thing? And I think there's a lot of difficulty in differentiating between what's important and what's urgent. We tend to gravitate towards knowing we can solve urgent issues. That's kind of the plight of competency. But then we get distracted from focusing on the things that are important.
I think
Which,
that's
I
I
feel like I'm
I,
talking about myself. I'm like going to a therapist right now.
I but how does that make you feel, Greg? And would you like to lay down?
It's tough. I can empathize deeply with this area where you're getting pulled in a bunch of different directions, and you tend to like, often as entrepreneurs, our skills shine in the areas of dealing with the urgent in pretty productive ways. But then once it comes to dealing with important stuff, which, people have all kinds of saying in business around this, working on the business, not in the business, and things like this
Right.
is where all these things come up. Um, is that a lot of people's roles is to work in the business, but then their goals are more about working on the business. And the question is really like, how do you get out of this urgent territory into the important one? And I think I would say starting by just having the awareness and intentionality between saying, okay, what is urgent and what is important, and really starting to lay some groundwork in planning around how to deal with these urgent situations so that they're being either delegated or managed and planned around so that you can be more proactive in dealing with them rather than reactive, which I feel like has really been the story of the last year and a half for a lot of businesses with the pandemic because of how much reactivity it created.
Um, I think that you're right, and I think that there's actually right now a lot of sort of built up muscle memory on being reactive, where maybe we weren't quite as much before. But I think that um, I think you're right. I think that being in this situation where a lot of us feel sort of like pinballs, just kind of being knocked around in ways that we can't control, and um, decisions being impacted by decisions that we have no ability to control. Things like, um, when is the vaccine going to be available? Are they going to shut down schools again?
Are
Are
people going to be comfortable with in-person meetings and events?
when
And
yeah when is it okay to have an in-person meeting? What are the I mean, even just considering all of the things that you have to do or consider before scheduling an in-person meeting nowadays is um, it's a lot. And so we have been conditioned to be reactive. We have been sort of conditioned over the last year and a half to um, to that bouncing is normal as opposed to um, slowing down and getting control.
Mhm.
And I think that having agreements within your organization um, about what constitutes an emergency and about how you're going to look, if you bring me something and you say, hey, this is urgent, is that a mandate, or am I allowed to negotiate? Can I ask you to table something until after I've had a chance to do these things which we've agreed are more important? I think that there's a lot in those conversations. I think that a lot of times those conversations tend to not happen. Somebody says, we just say yes without really thinking about it.
Or
And
giving honest feedback, honestly, like
right,
letting people know where you're at in your workflow and what you're working on, and telling them with honesty like what it is you're capable of in that moment versus not voicing it and then feeling obligated to follow through because you
right,
didn't give clear feedback about what that entailed. And I think that that's the innocent way that things happen 9 times out of 10 is, you're telling somebody to do something, but then you didn't hear from them that maybe this wasn't their highest priority or whatever it happens to be. And so you just ran with the assumption that this is something that's getting done.
and,
Um,
and, and that it was okay for you to ask for.
yeah.
So the next time this pops into my head, that I need Greg to do whatever, that I feel that, that if I go to Greg and the answer is always yes, that I'm just going to keep going to Greg for the things that I want, and it doesn't actually matter if I've thought through why I think I need them.
I think we don't have a lot of time left, but in kind of getting towards these closing thoughts, I think that as much as we've built up this muscle memory to reactivity, I think a lot of this is kind of like the dilemma of competency, is that the same people keep being made to deal with the urgent stuff when oftentimes they're the ones that are the best at figuring out what's important and actually building things like creative endeavors.
Sure.
And I don't think we've ever had a time with more flexibility in what people's expectations are than right now, because so much has changed that when it comes to end users and these people that are further down either the chain or customer facing, whatever it happens to be, uh, there's actually a lot of flexibility because people aren't as the expectations, I don't think, are the same as what they were before the pandemic. I think this is like a time where competent people can be really reorienting themselves towards these important tasks, so long as they have the kind of willpower and that ability to be honest about what they want to do and should be doing, rather than just going through the motions and the status quo that has been kind of created over the last year. I think everybody's accepting of this change right now, is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
it's from all levels. It's the individuals that's doing the work, and it's the people on the receiving end on the customer side. I think everybody has a little more slack to give, in a way that I don't think existed before. And so it's like, I think right now is a huge opportunity for key players in businesses and the businesses themselves to really, I would say, come together, have a little a meeting of expectations and figuring out how to align workflows so that they're serving higher business needs, not just the ones that are happening today. So I would say be aware of what's happening and then have a discussion about it and see where it goes.
I'd say the things that I would sort of maybe add to that, if you believe that you have goals and that you have been and that your organization is in agreement about the things that are most important, and this is what we said we were doing this year, this quarter, whatever, um, are they written down? Are we talking about them during our regular staff meetings?
Is it ritualized?
Is it part of our ritual? Are when these things come up and we're talking about, hey, we need to shift gears and do X now? Are we talking about how that's impacting these goals that we said are important? And I think that there's a big communication piece where these things that we all said were goals maybe aren't really goals because we're not treating them that way. We're not treating them like they're important, or that they're really up here in terms of being top of mind,
The
or
bite-sized chunks of reaching a goal should be somewhat repetitious. If they aren't there, you're going to lose it. There should
exactly.
be, and maybe part of that current repetition is the urgency and the emergencies. And so maybe it's about like figuring out how to ritualize that. Maybe you only have 1 hour a day set aside to deal with emergencies, and then if they're not dealt with within that time period, then they have to wait. So like it works in two directions, right?
And I would also definitely say that people need to to have that two-way communication, and not be afraid to tell somebody if there are implications of a certain ask that maybe that person isn't thinking about.
Yep.
Hey, all my time is being eaten up by these emergencies. Can we put some of them on hold? can some of these wait until next week or next month and let me spend my next few days on XYZ, which is more important? A lot of times people don't feel comfortable having those conversations, and that's a thing we need to change too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, question answered. Check. We got it done. Greg got his therapy. And if anybody has a question, we've got the email address. Shoot us a note, and we will be back again. We keep doing this to ourselves, so we will be back again with more second impressions. Thanks.